Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. I pushed through Ethan's friends and opened the banking app. My thumb kept missing the login because it shook. The number loaded and my throat tightened hard. $43 sat there like it belonged, and I knew it didn't. I'm Maya, 29, and I stared until my eyes watered. I told myself it was a glitch and I was being dramatic. Then I refreshed again and the same balance blinked back. That tiny blink felt like a slap across my face. Behind me someone yelled, "Let's go," like a hype man. A cup bumped my arm and cold liquid splashed my sleeve. I didn't even look down because my brain locked. I walked toward the noise anyway because running felt worse. Ethan stood near the kitchen laughing too loud. He lifted a shot and his friends roared like he won. He looked flushed and free, like rent was imaginary. My hand went to my belly before my mind caught up. I held my phone up at chest level and waited. He glanced at it and his grin stuttered mid-breath. For a second he looked confused, then annoyed, then alert. That rapid shift told me more than any confession. "What is this?" My voice came out thin and sharp. He reached for my wrist with a casual grip. He angled my arm down like he could lower the problem. His touch wasn't gentle, it was controlling, and I hated it. "Not here," he steered me toward the hall with pressure. I let my feet move because I needed answers fast. His friends kept laughing behind us like nothing mattered. That sound followed me like a dare I couldn't ignore. In the hallway he tried a soft smile that didn't land. "You're stressing yourself out." His palm patted my shoulder twice. I flinched at the second pat and he noticed. His eyes narrowed like my reaction betrayed something. I pulled my arm free and kept the screen facing him. The balance sat there again, unchanged and brutal. He swallowed and glanced toward the living room. That quick look was not for me, it was for witnesses. "Did you move it?" I heard myself ask it twice. He rubbed his forehead and blew out a long breath. "Work has been insane." He spoke fast and kept shifting weight. The way he dodged felt practiced and that scared me. I opened the transaction list and scrolled with my thumb. I wasn't even reading yet, I just needed him to see it. His jaw clenched and he reached for my phone. I stepped back so hard my heel hit the baseboard. "Give it." His voice dropped into something colder. I didn't hand it over because my body went stubborn. He forced a laugh and flicked his eyes toward the party again. That laugh was fake as plastic and it cut deep. From the kitchen someone shouted his name like a cheer. Ethan's face lit up for them, then turned blank at me. He leaned in close enough that only I could hear. "Please don't do this tonight," he murmured, and I froze. Ethan's fingers closed around my elbow and guided me harder. He kept his mouth near my ear like we were sharing a secret. "Please don't do this tonight." His breath hitched on the last word. My stomach dropped because that sounded like guilt, not worry. I pulled away and planted my feet by the wall. My screen stayed raised between us like a shield. He lifted both hands and flashed that calm husband face. It looked convincing until his eyes kept darting past me. "You're making a scene." His voice stayed low and tight. I laughed once and it came out ugly. "You already made it." I tapped the number with my nail. His jaw flexed like he wanted to bite the air. He tried a new angle, soft and sweet. "Hey, look at me." His palm hovered near my cheek. I leaned back and he froze mid-reach. That tiny pause felt like a mask slipping. A guy from the living room leaned into the corridor. He squinted at us like this was part of the entertainment. Ethan snapped his fingers at him to go away. The guy shrugged and lingered anyway, because of course. Ethan blocked my view of the room with his shoulders. He smiled toward the crowd without turning his head. Then his focus slammed back onto my screen. I swear he looked at that number like it could scream. "Let's talk outside." He nodded toward the front door. I didn't move because I wanted receipts now. My thumb slid to the transaction list again. He noticed and his hand shot forward fast. I jerked my device to my chest and stepped back. He stopped himself mid-grab and forced a laugh. "Babe, come on." His voice went syrupy then sharp. The switch hit my nerves like a live wire. "You didn't even ask what's wrong." I kept my tone flat. He stared at the floor for half a second. "Work is killing me." He pressed his knuckles to his forehead. He looked up fast like that should erase everything. Sincerely, I wanted to believe that line. Stress makes people stupid. That's what I told myself in that moment. Then he added, "You're overreacting," and my patience cracked. I pointed at the screen again and held it steady. "Where is it?" My voice shook and I hated that. He pinched the bridge of his nose like I was nagging. "Stop," he whispered it like an order, not a request. From the room behind us, someone shouted, "Shots." A cheer rose like a wave and slammed into the corridor. Ethan flinched at the sound and smiled on reflex. That reflex made my skin crawl because it came first. He leaned closer and tried to lower my hand again. I twisted my wrist away and kept the screen visible. "Not now," he mouthed it more than he spoke. I mouthed back now and watched him swallow hard. His pocket buzzed and he slapped it quiet. I locked onto that movement like a dog on scent. "You have your phone." I held my hand out. His face went blank in a way I hadn't seen before. He took a slow step back like I was holding a knife. No one word, no softness at all. I felt heat surge up my neck and into my ears. Have you ever watched love turn into a standoff in one breath? I moved first and reached for his pocket. He caught my wrist and held it too long. The grip wasn't bruising, but it was firm. I stared at his hand on me and my stomach clenched. He released me like he remembered other people existed. A woman near the doorway glanced over, then looked away fast. Ethan forced a grin at her and lifted his drink. That grin was for the room, not for me. I won't lie, I nearly backed down right there. The whole house felt like it leaned toward him. Then my thumb hit the statement page and lines popped up. I saw a charge labeled VIP and my lungs locked. My eyes snapped to his and I didn't blink. "What is VIP?" I asked it slow so I wouldn't explode. He blinked fast and his lips parted with nothing ready. That silence told me the answer was going to hurt. I jammed my finger on the details link and kept scrolling. Ethan hovered close enough to breathe on my hair. His hand kept twitching toward my grip like a habit. I angled my body away and kept digging anyway. What else was buried? He tried to guide me back toward the living room again. I resisted and he bumped my shoulder on purpose. "Stop pushing me," the words came out louder than I planned. A few heads turned fast and Ethan stiffened like I broke a rule. I started screenshotting every line I could see. It felt petty, then it felt smart, then it felt necessary. Ethan watched the screen like it was a ticking bomb. "Why are you saving that?" His voice scraped and I kept tapping. The list wasn't one charge, it was a trail. Several VIP hits showed up with different dates. There were ride charges stacked like steps leading somewhere ugly. I swallowed hard when I saw the same bar name repeat again. Why repeat it? Ethan leaned in and lowered his voice into that tight hush. "It's not what you think." He held up a finger like a teacher. I stared at him and felt my face go hot. "Then tell me what I think," I snapped and his eyes flicked away. I scrolled farther and saw a hotel deposit sitting there. A second deposit sat under it, then a cancellation fee. My brain tried to make it innocent and failed. "Why is there a hotel at all?" I asked and he went still. He lifted his hands again like I was holding him hostage. "Okay," one word, then he paused like he needed a script. "It was one night." His mouth pulled into a strained smile. My finger landed on the second date and I held it up. 2 nights. I walked straight into the living room with my screen held high. I didn't plan to do that, my legs just chose it. The music kept pounding and someone raised a cup at me. I reached for the speaker and yanked the plug. A silence hit like a slap. Every face swung toward me in one sharp wave. Someone laughed like I was doing a bit for attention. I held up my banking page and felt my voice shake. "My savings are gone." The room froze and Ethan's stare drilled into me. "Babe," Ethan stepped forward with that warning tone again. I backed up and kept the screen visible to everyone. One of his friends whistled low and muttered something I couldn't hear. That whisper lit a fuse in my chest because they already knew, didn't they? A woman near the couch lifted her eyebrows at Ethan. He shot her a look that made her mouth clamp shut. I caught it and my hands started trembling worse. If he could silence her that fast, what else could he control? I scrolled and read off a few amounts out loud. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Ethan lunged like he might cover my mouth, then stopped himself. That split-second choice told me he wanted to, then remembered the crowd. "Let's talk privately." He tried to smile like a peace offering. I heard myself laugh again and it was not kind. You had privacy. I pointed at the dates and lifted my chin. He blinked fast and I watched his controls start to crack. One guy lifted both hands like he wanted no part of this. I thought you said it was handled, he blurted, then shut up too late. Ethan snapped his head toward him like a switch flipped. My pulse jumped. Handled how and by who? Ethan stepped in close and lowered his voice again. Do you want everyone to know your business? His eyes were hard. I looked around at the staring faces and felt my throat tighten. Then I looked back at him and realized this was not about privacy, it was leverage. I lifted the screen right under his nose and held it there. Tell me where the money went. My voice steadied in spite of me. Ethan's lips parted and nothing came out for a beat. In that silence, a notification popped up, another charge pending right then. The pending charge flashed and my thumb hit it before thinking. Ethan's hand snapped toward my phone like a reflex. I turned my body and tucked the screen against my ribs. His eyes went flat, like he just lost control again. Give me that, his voice cut through the quiet room. I shook my head and kept my feet planted. A few people shifted like they wanted an exit. Ethan noticed them watching, then leaned closer anyway. Everyone out, he clapped once and pointed at the door. Some laughed like it was a joke and stayed put. He lifted his drink and slammed it down hard. That sound finally moved them slowly, but it moved them. When the last person lingered, Ethan followed and shoved the door shut. The lock clicked and the silence felt heavier after that. He turned back with his shoulders tight and his mouth set. I realized you were alone in a way that mattered. I held my phone up again and forced myself to breathe. Tell me what this new charge is. My voice sounded steadier now. Ethan rubbed his face and stared at the floor. His next words came out like a shove. It's nothing. I stepped closer and angled the screen toward his eyes. It's happening right now. I tapped the timestamp once. He flinched and reached up like he might grab it. I stepped back again, my heel caught and I almost fell. My hand flew to my stomach and I froze. Ethan's hands hovered like he might help, then dropped. He watched me steady myself and swallowed hard. That choice told me more than any apology ever could. Are you okay? His voice softened for 1 second. I nodded because I didn't trust my mouth. Then I lifted my eyes and stared him down. Where is my money? The question landed and stayed there. He paced 2 steps and ran a hand through his hair. I was stressed, he said it like a magic password. I didn't move because stress does not empty accounts. He stopped pacing and looked at me like I was unfair. It was supposed to be temporary. He held up his palms. My laugh came out sharp and short, then I hated myself for it. Temporary doesn't mean gone. I pointed at the balance again. He opened his mouth and shut it, like the truth tasted bad. Ethan finally nodded once, slow and reluctant. Okay, he exhaled and looked toward the kitchen like it might save him. I used it. The words dropped between us and didn't bounce. My knees went weak and I braced myself against the wall. I stared at him and waited for the rest. He kept talking in small bursts like he feared interruption. I needed to blow off steam. His eyes flicked toward my stomach. Then he added, I didn't think you'd notice yet, and my vision narrowed. Yet, I repeated it because that one word mattered. He winced like he realized he slipped. It wasn't all at once. His fingers pinched the bridge of his nose. I watched him dodge again, like he still wanted a softer story. How long? I kept it simple on purpose. Ethan's shoulders sagged and his face tightened. Weeks. He stared past me as if I wasn't there. That answer hit harder than the number ever did. I pulled up the dates again and held them in his face. These are not accidents. My voice shook, but I kept going. He snapped, you don't get it, then caught himself too late. I stared at him, wondering who he thought I was. He took 1 step toward me and lowered his voice. I was drowning. His hands chopped the air for emphasis. I wanted to scream that I was pregnant and scared too. Instead I asked, who else knows, because I saw those looks earlier. Ethan hesitated and his eyes slid away. That pause told me there was a name behind it. Cal. He muttered it like he hated saying it. My stomach dropped because Cal was not family and not safe. What does Cal have to do with my savings? Ethan lifted both hands like he wanted to slow time. I sent him some. His mouth twisted like it hurt to admit. To hold it, he added fast like that made it better. I stared at him and felt something in me go cold. Why would you send it to him? Ethan's jaw worked like he was chewing words. Because you would have locked me out, he snapped, then went quiet. That line made my skin prickle all over. I looked at the locked door and then at his hands. He noticed my glance and stepped back like he suddenly remembered manners. Don't look at me like that, he warned, soft voice, hard eyes. I pulled my phone close and opened my banking security settings. Ethan saw the screen and moved fast toward me. Stop, he reached out, then stopped himself at the last inch. His restraint looked rehearsed, like he'd practiced not crossing that line. You're not touching me again, my voice came out low and steady. He swallowed and nodded once like a child caught lying. Then he tried a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'll fix it, he promised, like words could refill an account. I stared at him and felt my throat tighten. Fix it how? I kept my eyes on his hands. He hesitated again, and that hesitation was the real answer. Because if he could fix it easily, why wasn't it already fixed? I slid my thumb across the security menu and hit freeze. Ethan lunged and his fingers grazed my wrist. I yanked back and my heart hammered in my teeth. He stared at my hand like it betrayed him, then he moved again. Don't, my voice came out rough and unfamiliar. He stopped short and lifted his palms like I was unstable. You're going to ruin everything. His eyes stayed locked on my device. I realized he meant his comfort, not our future. I backed toward the hallway and kept my shoulders squared. He followed step for step like he owned the air. I reached for the door latch and he blocked it fast. My stomach tightened because he was between me and leaving. Move, I pointed at the door without blinking. He shook his head once, slow and stubborn. Just give me the passcode. His hand hovered near my pocket. That request landed like a threat dressed as a favor. I snapped my device into airplane mode with one swipe. His eyes widened like I cut his oxygen. What did you do? He leaned in and I lifted my knee slightly. He noticed and paused like he finally remembered I could fight back. I didn't argue or explain because I was done negotiating. I slid sideways and grabbed my keys from the hook. Ethan reached again and I slapped his hand away. The sting on my palm felt better than his control. He took a breath and tried a softer tone. Please, we can fix this. He kept his hands low and open. I almost laughed, then I swallowed it down. Fix it means I get my funds back tonight, I said and watched him flinch. That flinch made my decision for me. I opened the front door and cold air hit my face. Ethan grabbed the doorframe and leaned into the gap. You're not leaving, he murmured, and my stomach turned. I stepped outside anyway and kept walking. He followed onto the porch and his voice rose. Don't do this to me, he spread his arms wide like I was cruel. I kept going because guilt is how he always won. He trailed me down the steps and grabbed my elbow again. I twisted free so fast it surprised both of us. His eyes flashed and his mouth tightened into a thin line. For 1 second he looked like a stranger wearing my husband's face. I got into my car and locked the doors on instinct. Ethan slapped the window with his palm and leaned close. Open it, his lips formed the words without warmth. I started the engine and his expression shifted into panic. I reversed hard enough to jolt my spine. Ethan jumped back and stumbled on the driveway edge. I should have felt bad, but I didn't. I drove off with his silhouette shrinking behind me and my hands still shaking. At the first stop sign, I turned airplane mode off. Texts flooded in like they were waiting behind a dam. Apologies, demands, then a message that just said passcode. My throat went tight because that one looked like his real voice. I called the bank line with the steering wheel pressed into my wrists. A calm agent asked for verification, and I answered on autopilot. I reported unauthorized transfers and asked for a full lock. When she said done, my eyes burned because relief felt like grief. The agent asked if I knew the recipient on the transfer. I swallowed and gave Cal's name because hiding helps nobody. She paused a beat, then asked if I felt safe at home. That question hit me harder than any balance screen. I didn't cry, but my voice cracked anyway. I'm pregnant, the words slipped out before I could stop them. The agent softened and told me to document everything. I stared at the road and realized I was now a file number. I drove straight to my sister's place and didn't look back. She opened the door and her face changed in 1 second. I walked past her and sat on the floor like my legs quit. She didn't ask for a story first, she asked if he touched me. I shook my head, then I hesitated, then I shook it again. That hesitation made her eyes narrow in a way that scared me. I'm fine, I hated how automatic that sounded. She crouched beside me and said, "Show me," and my stomach sank. I handed her the screenshots and watched her scroll. Her lips pressed together tighter with every line. She didn't rant or lecture, which somehow felt worse. She looked up and asked one question: how much did he send Cal? I called up the transfer detail and read the amount out loud. My sister blinked hard like she misheard it. That's not party money, her voice dropped into something cold. Hearing her say it made my skin prickle because she was right. My device buzzed again and Cal's name popped up. I stared at it like it might bite me. My sister reached for it, then stopped and looked at me. I answered because I needed to know what Ethan dragged us into. Tell your husband to call me, Cal's voice sounded bored. I held the phone away from my ear like it was dirty. Why are you contacting me? My words came out clipped. He laughed once, and that laugh told me he felt untouchable. He's late, Cal tapped something in the background. Late for what? My sister mouthed the question beside me. Cal sighed like I was slow. Payment, he said, and my stomach dropped through the floor. I forced my voice steady and asked what payment meant. Cal didn't answer straight, which made my pulse spike. He said Ethan knew what he owed and who he owed. Then he added, "Don't play dumb," and the line went dead. My sister took the phone and stared at me. I shrugged like that was normal, which is embarrassing now. She shook her head and stood up fast. We are not going back there, she said, and my throat tightened. Ethan called 10 minutes later, and I let it ring twice. When I answered, he sounded frantic and breathless. Cal contacted you, didn't he? His words tumbled out too fast. That confirmed everything I feared, and I felt weirdly calm. What do you owe him? I kept my tone flat on purpose. Ethan went quiet long enough to feel deliberate. Then he whispered, "It's complicated," like that word could cover a mess. I stared at the wall and waited, because he always fills silence. It started as a loan, his voice sounded smaller now. He said he tried to flip it with poker nights and lost. He said he kept chasing the loss because he was sure he could win. I closed my eyes because I saw a future in that pattern. So you used my savings to patch your mistake. Ethan made a wounded noise like I hit him. I was protecting you, he tried that line and my sister snorted. Protecting me was his favorite excuse, and it never meant safety. I asked why he didn't tell me when it began. He admitted he was scared I would leave him. That part was honest, and it made me angry anyway. He wasn't scared of losing me, he was scared of losing access. My sister stepped closer and put the call on speaker. Ethan heard the shift and his tone changed instantly. This is between us. The possessiveness in that sentence made me stiffen. My sister leaned in and said, "Not anymore," and I felt stronger. Ethan begged, then blamed, then begged again. He promised to pay it back with a bonus that suddenly existed. He swore Cal was harmless if we just stayed quiet. I stared at my sister because that sounded like a trap. I asked Ethan one last thing, straight and simple. Did you take anything else without asking? He hesitated, then whispered, "I opened a card in your name." My face went numb because that was not stress, that was theft. My sister grabbed her laptop and started pulling up credit reports. I watched her hands move like she'd done this before. She found the account and her jaw tightened hard. Seeing it in black and white made my stomach roll. I ended the call and blocked Ethan for the first time. My finger hovered over the button and then pressed anyway. I expected guilt to crush me, but it didn't. What I felt was space, and that scared me too. We called a lawyer the next morning and I took notes. I filed a police report for identity fraud with shaking hands. I sent the screenshots to a secure email and labeled them by date. Each click felt like tearing a thread, and I kept cutting. Ethan showed up at my sister's door before sunset. He knocked like a normal husband, which almost fooled me. My sister didn't open it and told him to leave. He switched into rage so fast I backed away from the window. "You're stealing my child," his voice punched through the door. I pressed my palm to my belly and felt it harden. My sister told him she was calling the cops. He went quiet, then left, and that quiet was the worst part. That night I lay on the couch and stared at the ceiling. My device stayed in my hand like it was a lifeline. A message came through from an unknown number: "You can't hide." I saved it because fear is evidence now. I don't know how the custody part will end yet. I do know I won't let him gamble with my kid. I used to think love meant patience and forgiveness. Now love looks like locked accounts and a door I won't open.